Let's start off with the offense, specifically the quarterback competition. Julian Sayin, 5-star sophomore, going into his second season. The consensus up until this point has seemed like that he's the most accurate passer on the team. And as an Ohio State fan, in the fan base in general, it kind of seemed like we were assuming he's going to be the starter and we're waiting for him to win that starting job. Not that you would win it this early in camp, or in the offseason, I should say, but we're waiting for him to have those moments where he's showing us he's going to be the starter. Doesn't really seem like that's the case so far. Lincoln Kienholz is a third-year guy, junior. There's always been questions about, is this going to be a starting caliber quarterback at Ohio State? And people have kind of been so-so on him. Maybe he was going to hit the transfer portal, that kind of thing. He is very much in this quarterback battle and maybe even is leading the battle at this point, because I'm recording this video just coming off Ohio State finishing their Student Appreciation Day scrimmage. And it seemed like, based off of what the media is reporting, that Lincoln Kienholz won that day, or won that scrimmage. So we got to keep an eye on this quarterback competition between Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz, but maybe Lincoln has a much better chance to win this job than what I was assuming originally. Tavian St. Clair is also, I guess, in the battle, you would say, but maybe not really. Highly rated 5-star true freshman from the state of Ohio. There's no pressure, I think, or really expectations for him to not only compete and win the starting job, but just competing in it in the first place. Yes, he's going to compete and you want him to, but considering the talent jump from the lower level Ohio State football that he was playing to now big time Big Ten football, I don't think it's reasonable to expect him to win that starting job. And I don't think anybody is really expecting that. He has all the tools, athletically, looks like it. I mean, he's going to be a really good quarterback at Ohio State here someday. This offseason and this year is going to be more about learning how to be an Ohio State level quarterback, being a good backup, and just continuing to develop and getting up to this level of competition. He's going to be really good, but this is not going to be his year. Let's go running back, starting with James Peoples, probably going to be RB1 or RB2. Drawing some comparisons to J.K. Dobbins, and we've been hearing that going back to this last season when he was a true freshman, getting reps in garbage time as kind of the third running back. Looks like J.K., kind of runs like J.K., has that forward lean and falls forward. And look, if he's anything like J.K. Dobbins, we will take that hands down, no questions asked with James Peoples. Last time Ohio State had a 2,000-yard rusher in one season was 2019 J.K. Dobbins. The second guy in this mix to be RB1, RB2 is the transfer from West Virginia, it seems like, C.J. Donaldson. Not exactly a burner, not known for his speed. However, he has a lot of experience that he's bringing over to Columbus, and also he's lost 18 pounds since enrolling in January, so I think we're going to get the most out of this transfer. I think that could be a really good punch, RB1, RB2, and in today's college football, and Ohio State did this last year with Quinshaw Judkins and Travion Henderson, you have to have 2 starting caliber running backs in order to go on a deep playoff run, because you're helping just extend the shelf life and taking hits off of your running backs. It's hard to just have one workhorse. So those two clearly seem like RB1, RB2, however you want to stack them. My assumption right now is that James Peoples would be RB1 and CJ Donaldson would be RB2. We also have 3 freshmen that came in the 2025 class. There's lots of excitement here with these guys. Bo Jackson, 4-star out of Ohio. A lot of excitement, a lot of hype around him. Does have a little bit of an injury history, kind of have some nicks and bruises here and there, but lots of guys are excited about Bo. Anthony Rogers is a 4-star recruit, 5th-ranked running back in the 2025 class. People are excited about him. Isaiah West, 3-star, but really high potential. So these young guys are going to add some much-needed depth to this room. Sam Williams-Dixon is a guy we should talk about as well. Going into his sophomore season, came in the same class as James Peoples, but initially he entered the transfer portal last December. Don't know what really happened there. I don't know if he just didn't find what he was looking for or wanted to come back to Ohio State. Regardless, he is back now, and he is continuing to add depth to this room. Wide receiver, let's get the easy one out of the way. Jeremiah Smith, this guy might win the Heisman. I don't know. I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself, but I think that's a legit possibility as long as the quarterback isn't a nightmare, and it's not going to be. He's the best offensive player in college football. He's the best receiver in football. He looks like an NFL guy already. It's crazy. They're also being careful with him. He's on a pitch count, just like Caleb Downs. There's no need for him to have 1,000 reps. He's going to be ready to go. As far as I'm concerned, Jeremiah Smith could just fly to an island and just live there until August, then come back, and you're ready to come back? You're ready to play? Okay, we'll take you. Like, he will do whatever he has to do to be healthy and ready. The biggest question with the receiver group, I think, is that 3rd receiver in the starting rotation. Brandon Inniss kind of seems like naturally the next man up when you look at how that room played out last year, and Brandon was pretty good. Got some valuable reps, had that huge touchdown against Penn State. Also had that really big route, catch, and reception in the national championship game against Notre Dame. So a lot of excitement around him. He's also slimmed down a little bit, so maybe he's going to flash a little bit more. Speaking of flashing, and this could be the other third receiver, is Mylan Graham. He's flashing a ton in practice. The social media team for Ohio State is just putting out a ton of clips about him high pointing the ball and coming down with great catches. And talking about comparisons here, I mean, he's kind of reminding us of Garrett Wilson, just the way he plays, the way he catches the ball, high points the ball. He wears the same number that Garrett Wilson wore when he was here, has similar build, similar size to Garrett. So that's making Ohio State fans very excited about Mylan Graham. And also with Mylan, people forget that he's a 5-star that came in the same class as Jeremiah Smith. A lot of teams would be really excited to have Mylan Graham coming in their recruiting class as their number 1 ranked receiver. He just happened to be overshadowed a little bit by Jeremiah Smith. But I think Mylan Graham is going to be really good. And of course, Carnell Tate, going into his 3rd year, junior year, had a really good year last year. And the biggest thing with Carnell Tate, he's just very underrated. Let's go to the tight end room. This is the deepest and maybe best tight end room. Not even maybe. It is the best tight end room that Ohio State's had in a very long time. Max Clare, they got the Purdue transfer this season. Very productive last year with the Boilermakers, 685 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns at Purdue. So obviously he's a big receiving threat, but it seems like he wanted to come to Ohio State to help kind of form that blocking ability, and not that he was bad at it, but make himself just an even better prospect and more well-rounded. And then you look at the guys after him. I mean, Will Kasmerick, Jelani Thurman, Bennett Christian, they all have plenty of playing experience. So then my head goes to, do we have to be concerned about somebody hitting the transfer portal? And if so, the first thing that comes to mind is Jelani Thurman. Highly rated 4-star recruit going into his 3rd season. At this point, I'm guessing he would assume he's going to be a starter, and, he might kind of be lost in the shuffle a little bit. And that's a combination of he hasn't hit that ceiling yet. Not that he can't get there, but just hasn't hit it yet, hasn't shown us that yet. And there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of guys in this room. And not that I'm assuming he's going to transfer, but someone like him specifically, if Jelani did hit the portal at some point, it wouldn't be surprising. The biggest thing with the tight ends, I think this year, and maybe one of the biggest changes in the offense from last year to this year, I think they're going to use the tight ends a lot more, and not just as blockers. I mean, they're going to utilize them in the passing game, especially with the transfer portal addition of Max Clare. Let's go over to the offensive line. New offensive line coach Tyler Bowen comes in from Virginia Tech. Looking at personnel, there's going to be new tackles. Ethan, and I might screw up his last name, Ethan Anianwa, the transfer from Rice. We're assuming he's going to win that starting job at left tackle. This was a guy that did get some NFL buzz going back to his time at Rice last year, chose to stay in the world of college football, transfers to Ohio State. We're assuming he's going to win that starting job at left tackle, but nothing's promised. Look at the right tackle, Phillip Daniels, the transfer from Minnesota, also assuming that he's going to win that job at right tackle, so that's kind of the look at your left tackle and right tackle. The strength of this offensive line is looking at the interior, it seems like. There's depth there. There's also a lot of playing experience. Left guard, Luke Montgomery, honestly played really well in the second half of last year when he stepped up as a depth piece and played really well in the playoff. Carson Hinsman's back at center, and he has a lot of big game experience and just game experience in general under his belt. Right guard, Teker Shabola is back. Austin Sareveld is back. And Austin Sareveld is a guy that was kind of a swing guard last year. There's also been some talks about him getting some reps at left tackle. And I think the importance of that is Ryan Day's talked about this spring players in the offensive line being comfortable playing a secondary position. You have your primary, but also having a secondary. And I think having all the offensive line injuries that they had last year has opened their eyes up to we have to have some sort of backup plan if we start having injuries again. Overall, I feel okay about the offensive line. Okay, I think is appropriate for this point of the year just because we don't know how good the tackles are going to be yet. Last point on the offense, obviously with Chip Kelly moving on, new offensive coordinator, and not that Brian Hartline hasn't had that title. He has had the title, but he's going to be calling plays this year. He hasn't called plays before. I think there have been times in previous off seasons and scrimmages where he has called plays, but this season he's going to have the play calling duties and responsibility. So how will the offense look with Brian calling the plays? I mean, obviously he's still the wide receivers coach. Ryan Day's involvement is still going to be very heavy on the offensive side of the ball. That's Ryan Day's specialty. I do agree with the promotion with Brian Hartline and promoting him to play calling responsibilities, because if you truly think that you have a guy internally that can be the guy, if you know what I mean, then this was the best chance, right? Of course, I would have loved to have Chip Kelly for another year, or, if Bill O'Brien hadn't left Ohio State for Boston College, having that kind of top caliber lots of experience, NFL experience type of offensive coordinator. I would have loved to have that kind of guy for one more year and then maybe Brian, but considering you couldn't get that kind of guy and you lost Chip Kelly, I agree that the very next best available hire was promoting Brian Hartline to calling plays, because if you think he's the guy internally, you have to give him a chance to prove that, and we're going to see that this year. Moving over to the defense, let's start with the defensive line. It's easy to assume that Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry are going to be the starters coming off the edge. 4-year guys, seniors. But the asterisk here is going to be CJ Hicks, and he's kind of the wild card. Linebacker turned edge guy. He's confirmed that he's going to be playing off the edge now, which is great. I think we all kind of agree that that's maybe where he's going to be utilized the best, if you will. Former 5-star guy, also going into his senior season. Hasn't really had much of an impact. Doesn't have a lot of big game playing experience or just playing experience in general. But he's very athletic. He's quick. He has power, and he has a quick first few steps. And we've seen that last year. I mean, I forget what game it was, but he had a couple reps where he came off the edge, and those first few steps, not comparing him to Chase Young, but he had that quickness and had that burst like Chase Young had. So if you can kind of channel that, and if you can turn into like a true edge guy, I mean, look at what Abdul Carter did to Penn State for Penn State last year. I'm not expecting CJ Hicks to turn into Abdul Carter, but he has that type of athleticism and speed and power to give Ohio State that kind of player, and they could use somebody like that coming off the edge. Defensive tackle depth, we're also going to touch on that because it seems like if Ohio State was going to take anybody in the spring transfer portal window into their program, defensive tackle and really building depth or just adding 1 or 2 more pieces is something that they are considering, it sounds like. So if you're wondering who Ohio State might take, if anyone at all, in the spring transfer portal window, look at defensive tackle depth. They might get someone there. Let's go linebacker. James Laurinaitis has done a fantastic job with this room. This room has a very high potential, lots of athleticism, and you're looking at the most athletic linebackers that Ohio State's had in quite some time. We are assuming Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese are going to be the starters, but there's also been talks of Arvell Reese kind of coming off the edge. So this is part of that Matt Patricia hire, having that NFL influence, having multiple fronts, different looks. That's going to be very exciting. But also with these linebackers, I mean, in years previously, not really the second half of last year because the linebackers were good, but before then, linebackers were never really the strength of the defense. It was kind of a weakness or one of the weaker units on the defensive side of the ball. That's no longer the case. These guys are big, athletic, fast, have playing experience, so they're going to be used as weapons. And Matt Patricia so far has already been raving about utilizing Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles in different ways. We're also looking at Peyton Pierce. James Laurinaitis has had really good things to say about Peyton, kind of calling him like your classic linebacker, smart on the field, fills gaps accordingly, plays, very soundly. And then we have the young freshmen, Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford. Again, athletic guys, strong. This ceiling is just so high for this room, and James Laurinaitis has really done a fantastic job. Let's go to corner, where we have Jermaine Matthews and Igbinosun. We are assuming they're going to be the starters, and they both bring back a lot of experience. And Jermaine looked pretty good. I mean, he's been flashing in the spring a little bit. The clips that were released following the Student Appreciation Day scrimmage, Jermaine was making plays. There's lots of excitement around him, and he's looked good in the playing time he's gotten the last 2 years. He's a guy that's going into his 3rd year as a junior. Iggy's coming back. I mean, it feels like with him, he's just one step away from being a first-round corner. Obviously, the penalties last year were awful. He had 16, which is way too many. Having 1 penalty a game is insane. For the most part, he's everything you want in a corner. He's a dog. He talks shit. He's physical. He's in your face. All of that is great. However, he's just too handsy and holds too much or gets there too early. You can't have 16 penalties. Even if you have half that 8, that's too much. That's going to be too much for the NFL guys. So I would love 5 or less for him. There's a ton of depth in this room as well. You got Aaron Scott, Bryce West, highly rated recruits going into their sophomore seasons. Devin Sanchez, 5-star true freshman, might be good enough to force his way into the rotation, so just keep an eye on him. Let's go to safety. Caleb Downs, just like Jeremiah Smith, this is very easy. Best defensive player in college football. He's also on a pitch count. It sounds like he has a little bit of a nagging injury, nothing too serious or that has to be worried about right now. Go live on the island with Jeremiah Smith. Come back in August when you're healthy and ready to play. The rest of the safety room is interesting just because Lathan Ransom is leaving really big shoes to fill. So looking at the younger guys, we have Malik Hartford, who has playing experience really going back to the 2023 season. Then we also have Jalen McClain, who has recent playing experience. He started in place of Lathan Ransom last year in the Nebraska game. And then we have Fahim Delane, another young guy. So this safety room really isn't that experienced if you look at the totality of it. I actually feel okay with this position. And then, of course, the new defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia. He's bringing that NFL influence, which I think is going to be really good for Ohio State. He's excited to use Caleb Downs. He's excited to use the linebackers, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. I think the Ohio State defense is still going to have that safety-driven focus in a sense, but it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be more multiple. It's going to have different looks. Jim Knowles was very good, is very good, and obviously that's a big loss. Him not only leaving the program, but going to Penn State, which drives me nuts as an Ohio State fan. But regardless, I think so far, the program, the players, the rest of the coaching staff, it sounds like the guys are excited about what Matt Patricia is doing.